All right, well, welcome everybody to our Windows work group. We can go ahead and get started here. So I thought we'd start out with some introductions. Let us know who you are, where you're at, who you work for, and if you want, maybe what you hope to improve or what you hope to do with this working group, what maybe some of your thoughts are with it. I'll just start out. My name's Shane, and I've been working for SALT since 2015. I retired from the military, and this was my first civilian job, and this is where I've been since I retired. I came from a Windows shop. I was doing a lot of the scripting and stuff, automating our IT work there. And I'd never even heard of SALT. And then when I found this, I was like, man, it would have made my life a lot easier if I'd had SALT where I was. And so this has been a challenging and fun project for me to work on. And I'm hoping we can, it's kind of different, this work group, because it's being led by a SALT employee, but we hope next go around it'll be a community guy that runs it and not us, and so the community can have more direction on where SALT's going. SALT of course has its own. We have things we'd like to get done, but we also want to include what the community is interested in. See, I had Chad up next. Is Chad on yet? Chad's on. How about you, Joe? You want to go?
Sure. So, likewise, I am also here in the SaltStack office as a core employee here. However, this is actually my first full-time position, as I am a recent college grad. So this will be my first opportunity to sit down with a system, sit down with a company, and really spend a lot of time devoting towards it. Whereas in the past, I've had internships and I've had co-ops, so I've had opportunities to work for companies, but also this is my first chance to work with an open source team and community. So extremely excited to be able to work with people here, but also in the community, and very excited to see where we could drive this group.
Great, thanks, Joe. Marcus, you want to go next?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Marcus. I started working for research. My first job after the university was in a research facility where I did bioinformatics, and then later language research, and then I joined DHL, which is a totally different kind of working. And after many years, I found that one of the problems in DHL was that the distribution of big files is awful, and I somehow got along to convince my supervisors to allow me to combine BitTorrent with something, and that something is SALT. And since also 2015, a good share of software within DHL is distributed via BitTorrent and controlled via SALT. So this is why I'm interested in SALT, and all the clients will be Windows client for the foreseeable future. DHL plans to integrate tablets, Android tablets, but not ready yet. And this is, yeah. So maybe interesting is that I know two different types of working, which would be the scientific community, then a very big company, and also SALT would be the first open source project I actively contribute to. Yeah, so I'm glad to know you, because I find it always very much easier to meet people. I met Thomas Hedge and Boucher. What's his name? I'm not sure. Is he still in SaltStack? I only get his last name. Boucher.
Yeah, Dave Boucher. He's
Dave Boucher.
one of the founding members of the project, and he's still here with us. Yeah.
Good. I haven't seen him lately. He was also a Windows-centric person at the time, and he taught me how to Git. That was interesting, and now I'm finally able to Git a little bit. So greetings to Dave.
Yeah, I'll let him know you said hi. Yeah, he's kind of moved over into sales now, so he's not doing the development side, but he's still here with us. And
I see.
great guy, good resource to have. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked him.
He's actually the one that got me on here. He and I had worked together for about 15 years with the government. So.
Oh.
Cool.
Yes, absolutely. We met in Nuremberg when there was a SUSE meetup. So I went there. I'm normally in Cologne, but Cologne and Nuremberg are not so far away, and you can just take the train. And so.
You're Rigel, right?
Yeah. Hi, my name's Rigel.
Oh, this is. Oh, okay. That's Marcus. Had this all messed up, by the way.
Yeah, I work in Chicago. I work at DocuSign, and I've been. I sort of introduced them to Salt when I found out about it, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. I'm just trying to get it to basically do everything in the ops organization, deploy code and configure servers and create servers and all that stuff.
Pretty standard usage of Salt.
Yeah, but although I do usually default to like making my own custom, Python modules for Salt, because I find that a little bit easier than writing state sometimes.
Okay. Cool. Thanks, Rigel. I think that's everybody that's here. I don't see Rare. Hey, Chad, are you on?
I'm just sorry to join. My internet is really
Okay. Okay. All right. Since we'll have Chad introduce himself later. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the scope and maybe some of the goals that I was hoping to accomplish with this group. So I remember when Dave got me on, he was talking to me about Salt, and he said he wanted to make Salt awesome on Windows. That was his goal. And I think that's a pretty cool goal to have for this group. And in order to do that, one of the things that I'd like to do is improve stability on Salt and add some features that people care about. You get here in developer world, and we don't necessarily know what everybody's using Salt for, and maybe what it's missing. So part of this group is to see what people are using Salt, what they would like to use Salt for that it doesn't have, and get it added in the next major release. So we've been, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there hasn't been a whole lot of feature work done for Windows on Salt in the last year or so. We've been focusing really heavily on the tests, on writing tests for Windows and Salt, and getting the test suite running on Windows. So you may have noticed that when you do PRs now, that there are some Windows boxes that spin up now, and they run the entire test suite. And we're doing that in an effort to try to improve stability.
Yes, that's very good. I gladly noted that.
So what was happening is people in the Linux world would submit bug fixes, and it would break something on Windows, but we wouldn't know about it until we went to release, and we're going to test, and then that delays our release. So we've started to test more heavily in Windows. It's slow. We're still having problems with it, and we're getting those worked out. And we're also, there's something else we're doing where we are now demanding that people who submit features and bug fixes, we want tests for those. We want them to write tests for them, for the bug fixes as well as for the new features that are being added. And that's to, again, improve stability. I mean, the whole purpose of it is to make Salt more stable and make sure we don't have regression. If it's a bug fix, we want to test so that we don't regress that bug in the future. And also on our PRs, we want all the tests to be green. And that's been really difficult last few months because just the test suite in general isn't green.
Yeah.
We got a lot of things that are failing all over, and that's what we've been trying to fix last couple of months. And once that's all green, then I think all of the PR merging process will go a lot quicker and be a lot smoother. So I guess we're asking for a little patience as we get these problems with the test suite worked out. We don't know if it's going to take another month or 2 months or maybe done this week. I mean, that would be awesome, but it's helping us find a lot of kind of hidden issues that we didn't realize were happening with Salt. So when we get this up and going, hopefully it will improve Salt overall across all operating systems. I guess one of the few things that we kind of worked on in Windows was group policy. We've added a lot more group policy support to the LGPO module, but other than that, there hasn't been a lot of big things for Windows in Salt in the last release. I don't think, other than minor bug fixes here and there. So I guess with that, that's kind of a little summary of what Salt's been doing with Windows. I was hoping to maybe hear from you guys on what are some of your pain points? What are some things that's difficult in Salt, or that's not working well, or things that Salt doesn't do that you wish it would do? And maybe we can build our list of things we want to work on for this group based off of the things that you're struggling with. Did you guys have any input on that, or any thoughts on problems you've seen with Salt on Windows?
Well, this may be a small thing, but like I said earlier, I usually find myself sort of making like custom modules, custom states to solve some problems. And I've just sort of noticed that like there'll be a Windows service module, but not a Windows service state. And then, so I feel like it's this weird sort of disconnect, because usually I would think that the states and modules would be sort of developed at the same time, since they're usually dependent on since the states are usually dependent on the modules. And especially, so like, for example, I have like a Windows so like basically a wrapper around the Windows service module that acts as a state. And I think it'd be really simple to turn it into a state module, just because it's essentially just passing all the keyword arguments through to the create or modify functions.
You're specifically talking about a service state module.
Yes, a state module that can sort of do that.
For service. I thought we had one, because I
don't think it does exactly the same things. I don't think it calls the Windows service.
Oh, does? Yes, I use it all the time.
Oh, really?
There is one tricky thing about the Windows service, at least it was when I started with it, in that I can forward you what I've done. So we're talking about the Windows service, which is starting with when the Windows operating system starts and the service starts, and it runs as a system, maybe. That's the service you're talking about?
No, just like the service dot. So in the service state module, there's service dot running, service dot dead.
Yeah. Right, status, you can query the status, you can stop the service, you can have it automatically start, you can defer start it. Yes,
There's no
inside.
creation. I don't think there's a creation.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. That's true. It's somehow I didn't find it either. Yeah, I manually create it, and then I'm as soon as it's created, maybe that's a little weird. True.
Yeah, and really all it takes is because I mean, there's the module function already exists. Like so, like I said, like I just have a very simple wrapper module that just wraps service.modify, service.created, service.info, and that type of stuff.
Okay, so you're talking a state to create a service.
Yeah, a Windows service. Yeah.
Okay. No state to create a Windows server. I'm just keeping some notes here. Okay. Yeah.
I think that's true. Yeah. As soon as it runs, you can query and stop and start it, but I haven't found a way to create a service. Neither.
Okay. So I guess what Salt has kind of assumed is that, you know, you install software that creates a service and then it's there, and we're not creating services with Salt. But if there is a need to do that, then we can do it with the modules, what you're saying.
Yeah.
Can't do it with the state. And you've created a wrapper around that to be able to do that.
Yeah. And the same type of thing for scheduled tasks as well. I have like a little wrapper that wraps the scheduled tasks modules, and just so I can use them in states.
Okay, Chad, for Neon, we just submitted a PR to add a task scheduler state module.
Yeah,
Cool.
no, the PR's in.
The PR is in, but it hasn't been merged.
No, it's been merged. It's been in there for a while now.
That was in Neon though, right?
I believe it was a Neon only feature that we added.
Okay. So are you guys familiar with our release process, kind of how we name things?
It's a periodic table.
Yeah, periodic table. So Neon's the next one we're hoping to get out this fall. And the ones that we're going to be building for is the one following Neon, which I think is sodium. You guys remember what it is? Like, got to get a periodic table.
Fluorine.
Fluorine, say?
Guessing.
Sodium.
Sodium. Question: would that chat this Windows task scheduler, would that be the same as the scheduler which we see now, or would it be separate things? So we would have a SALT scheduler and on Windows a Windows scheduler. Which
No,
way do
it
you
works
go?
with the Windows Task Scheduler API. So when you make a task, it'll show up in the GUI.
In the GUI.
In the GUI.
Yeah, this isn't the SALT scheduler. This is different from the SALT scheduler.
True, yeah.
Oh, it's different. Okay,
Yeah.
so this would be then this. So we could potentially continue to have a scheduler in SALT running, and then a different Windows task scheduler on Windows, in the Windows task scheduler.
If you make a Windows task not using SALT, this state module will be able to delete it or eventually modify it. We don't have it capable of modifying task yet, but you can delete it and start new task, and then go to your task scheduler built in with Windows and modify it or remove it if you want to. So it works with it.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, Chad did a good job on that. And you might see, Rigel, you might look at it and see if there's stuff your wrapper does that his state module doesn't do. Maybe we can get those in there.
Yeah, I doubt it, because mine's literally just calling schedule create. It doesn't really do much. And I think the reason why it doesn't do much either is I was basically trying to use sort of like the task.info modules that would return just like a whole bunch of data points. A lot more than like the parameters that I would put in. So it's not very stateful, I guess I could say.
Yeah. So that's good to have these states to make the thing. A lot of people were working around it by using the module.run state.
Right. Yeah. And I don't like using module.run
It's not
as a
state.
rule.
It
Yeah.
just fires and it runs every time, and there's really no state about it. So, okay, so we've got so far a task scheduler and the service state. Is there anything else that you guys use that would be helpful?
I think this is not Windows specific. Non-ASCII characters are still not represented in what I run is 2018 3.4. I assume this will only end with Python 3, but I look really forward to have all my German umlauts visible.
Sure.
Oh, and it also crashes. I don't know, a year ago there were even, well, but I think that's Python 3 solving it. And
Okay, so that is another goal we could have, is to transition to Python 3 fully. So Tom told me that on Windows, if we wanted to just drop Py 2, we could just go straight Python 3 because we bundle our own. The reason we've stayed with Python 2 is because on a lot of the Linux distributions, they bundle a version of Python with that distribution, and we need Salt to be able to support the distribution that goes on that by default. But on Windows, since we're packaging Python ourselves and basically distributing a portable Python with Salt already installed in it, that's basically what our package is. We could drop Python 2 completely and just go Python 3.
Good.
What do you think about that for a goal for the Sodium release? That would take care of a lot of the Unicode issues, and it would even display them, I think, on the command line properly and stuff like that. You know what? I think that's a goal anyways for Salt to drop Py 2 by.
Yep.
So I think that's already a goal since Py 2 is coming end of life at the end of the year.
If we want to go even further, we can actually write an API for the CMD to support all Unix code. I have extensive knowledge of that. So if you want to actually go and get that so you can see all your German characters, including Japanese and so forth, we could do something like that.
Well, if Py 3 is still an issue, maybe we'll have you look at that. If it's still an issue on Py 3, then maybe we'll look at that. Because I think the route to go is to go pure Py 3.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, then one of the goals of one of my interests for the Windows group would be that there is a year-long. I'm the supporter of a module which was created by an US programmer. That's the MSI installer, the Wix toolset.
Okay,
And sorry?
You're the one that's been working on that.
Yep, well, I took it over, and I had to invest a lot of time into the learning curve of the Wix toolset, but it works. We distribute our clients via MSI, which is the preferred. I think I prefer MSI over XE for a number of reasons. Nullsoft is will and always be the first level of or the first installer. It's the oldest and it's the best supported, but I would really like to see the Wix toolset also included in the test routine you were talking about, and eventually also creating MSI files in nightly builds or whatever.
Right. Okay, I like that a lot, and I was going to ask you about that. That was one thing we talked about. So one of the I tried to do the WIX thing, and it was just so complicated to me I couldn't figure it out. That's why
it is terrible.
That's why I stayed with the Nullsoft tools. Just,
yeah.
It's a time investment to learn it.
I do not need to excuse because I did not invented it. It's really strange. It has to do, most of the reasons are due to the fact that an MSI is a database. It's only a database. So you need to think in database transaction terms, triggers, and that's most strange when you come from a nullsoft script which just do things from A to B and then call something. Luckily, I was programming a database before I did that, so I somehow find a way to change and to get into it. But I would love, maybe not if everybody, if you talk about Wix, then everybody needs to be interested because it goes into strange terrain. So we should set up who's interested in the MSI installer meetings.
Okay.
Otherwise, somebody would be bored. But I would love to give a little introduction, and maybe we do it interactively by just writing email. What does that mean? This is terrible. I now forgot the name. Whoever created that, he gave me several introductions into it. I was completely lost. I will stay as long as everybody is familiar with that, because it's not bad. It's just strange, and you need to you must be willing to invest some time before you understand that an MSI installer is a database which runs. This is what it makes it transaction safe. So if at the 99% of the installation something goes wrong, everything is rolled back, which is fine, but it requires you to do everything as a database.
Okay. So the questions I had about it were, I've done a lot of work in the GUI for the nullsoft installer, and added some new things for dealing with if the config file already exists. And
I've seen that.
Population the field and things like that, and it just seemed trying to bring those over into the MSI installer was just overwhelming or daunting. I don't even know how to add a new panel, a new page.
That's an easy part. We can do that. That's in XAML. That's an XML description, GUI description language, and it's rather easy. We can do that together. You can tell me what do you want, and you see what I've done. Both. Yeah, I've seen your changes, and this reminds me of something. The config file. There is one topic which I would really be interested in discussing with you. On the Unix world, the minion config file can be a complete comment. Everything of the minion config file can be a comment. You do not need anything in the minion file. You can delete it, and the minion still runs, except it will guess its name. It just needs a master. On the Windows world, you need at least 3 changes. It must be TCP transport and 2 other things. If so the minion file on the Windows world must contain these Windows quirks, changes to the default. And what I would like to do is, this would be maybe a salt improvement process thing. The Python code should detect which operating system, and then the Python code should decide that it's TCP transport because it's Windows, and not only in the Windows minion config file. Maybe that was a little bit.
I thought it did that because it defaults to, if you don't put a master in, it looks for salt on a DNS.
Yes.
If you don't put a minion ID in, it should use the host name.
Yes.
And TCP is the default transport for Windows. If you don't put it in, the only thing I put in my config is my master and the name of my minion, and that's it. It defaults to everything else.
Okay, good. Then if it's already done, then I was just maybe irritated by the fact that the minion config file actually writes it's not a comment when you, as far as I remember, when you install a fresh new minion, then the TCP transferred and 3 other things are not a comment, but they are actually key value pairs in the config files.
Okay,
so maybe I was just distracted by.
So in Unix, you're saying that everything is commented out, and in the Windows one, we're not commenting.
It's not.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you remove those, it'll still, it's not commented out, but it is the default value.
Oh, I see. I see.
So
Okay.
if you remove that, it would still work. If you commented that line out, it would still work.
I haven't tested that actually. I see. Good. That's good to know. I can test it, and maybe then we can make it also a comment as in the Linux world.
Okay. All right. So config file defaults.
Yep.
Config file should be totally commented out. Is that what we're saying here, or maybe we need some more investigation into this? I'm not sure how to word this.
Yeah, well, verify that the salt minion on Windows knows its default by source code and not by configuration. Maybe that's a long title, but
Verify that the default the config would work without being defined. It's specifically in there. Okay.
and I only bring that up because you made that in the Nullsoft installer some questions about taking it off, so I can mimic that. It's not too difficult to make the GUI. It's an XML. In theory, it should also be possible by doing it in Visual Studio. So you could essentially do a WYSIWYG the GUI should be WYSIWYG, but I don't think it is, so I've never tried that. I write directly in XML.
Okay, and I'd like to keep it that way so people don't have to install anything to compile it, to run it.
No, it should never be. It runs. There are these the scripts run without the requirement are even installed. So I tried to mimic there is the script of yours, which is called, I don't know, create environment or something. So I named it the same. So it downloads some necessary stuff like the build tools, which are just the worst Ant-like thing the Microsoft world knows, but it's needed. And
okay. Yeah, well, maybe we'll have another conversation about the specifics of the installer.
okay, yeah, definitely, it's very fine topic.
Yeah, and it's something that people have asked for. People want MSIs. They could push out Salt with Active Directory if we had an MSI for them.
Yep, I had a conversation with somebody who told me he does. So what he does is he creates the old 2016 version of MSI, the MSI 2060 MSI, and then upgrades as fast as he can within Salt. But there is somebody out there, he created its own MSI. So I was happy about that. I'm happy to know that.
Yeah, they have tools where you can take an EXE and convert it to an MSI. But it doesn't allow you to configure anything. It's just a wrapper around the EXE is all.
Oh, I see.
So you could just wrap the EXE and you could pass it parameters, and then the MSI would install, launch the EXE, and send the parameters you pass to it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's an XCM and an MSI. I see. Yeah, this is not that's not a MSI from ground up, but it's kind of a XC within an MSI. That's also possible. Yeah.
It's not a pure MSI.
No.
That's what you'd say. A lot of people do that when they just want to get something installed on their system.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Anybody else with some ideas for Windows? I had a few more I was going to mention just to gauge your interest in it, but anybody have anything else?
Yes, I tried to get around the question what is inside the minion. There are a number of cloud-related modules which I do not need, and I would like not to install. So I started to figure out a way to understand what's inside the minion and which parts I could make optional. So we could envision a future where the installer asks you, do you want to install all the Amazon cloud related stuff? Yes or no, tick, tick, tick. And then if you say no, the installer would not download the Amazon cloud related stuff and other things. I would even make PIP optional. So these are like make it componentable or make the components optional thing, which would go into a smaller installation footprint on the client. The installer would be same size, but the client would receive less. And I would sleep better if all my minions are able to communicate with Amazon Cloud, and I do not want to do that. So I would prefer they cannot.
Okay, so the way it works is that Salt is kind of a monolith right now. It has everything's bundled together.
Yeah.
Including the master, you know, runner, Salt Cloud. Everything is all in that same code base. Now there's been, we want to break that out. And I don't know if that's going to happen in a major Salt revision, like a version 2 of Salt. Or if we're now there is a Salt Cloud working group, and that's one of the things that they are talking about doing is getting Salt Cloud out of Salt and having it be in its own repository where they can have their own release timeline and that.
Oh.
So that may happen. The Salt Cloud stuff may go away anyways. We've also talked about breaking all the Windows modules out into their own repository. So
Yeah.
we don't have to bundle Windows modules with our Linux distros.
Yeah.
Bundle Linux modules with our Windows distro. So there's been talk about that too. So that's kind of that may happen outside of the scope of this working group.
Yeah, maybe we can. I would participate on a low basis. I would be interested in that.
It's a good idea. I mean, we do eventually want to get Salt Cloud working on Windows, so you could spin up Amazon boxes. But the minion just sitting there isn't going to go out and talk to Amazon.
No. That's true, but still, it's written to the disk, and we have very aggressive virus scanners, which then need to be, I don't know, tranquilized in some way. I would prefer not to install anything which looks suspicious to the virus scanners. For example.
You're talking what's like the Bodo modules that are pip installed.
Yeah.
Okay. That may be something we could take out. So you're talking the requirements file, what we're bundling with Python, with our Python environment. Not the Salt modules. You're talking the
both.
Okay, so unnecessary PIP modules and Salt modules, specifically cloud stuff, right? What you're talking about.
Yeah.
Cloud stuff for now, maybe some other things you don't want there. And you want to remove PIP, and I would push back a little bit on that, because we want people to be able to create a custom execution module that maybe requires a PIP dependency, and we want them to be able to PIP install into their environment.
I do not want to kick it out. I would like to make it an option in the installer. So you can install it and I cannot. I choose not to. So I would make it flexible. I would leave it inside the installer and have it an option. So admins can decide, yes, in my environment, PIP is fine. And other admins say, no, not now, never, thank you.
Okay. So anything, now I don't know how the MSI works But on the nullsoft thing, anything I can do in the GUI, I can do from the command line.
Yeah, it's the same with MSI.
So you can set that up. So that's how we'd need to be able to set that up, is like a /pip is
Yep.
true or something.
Yep.
Okay. All right, I like that. Okay. Anything else? Okay. What about Active Directory? Do you guys use Active Directory? Is there any need to have Salt manage anything in Active Directory? Being able to add a user, remove a user, add a
Reading only.
read only.
Read only for me.
Yeah, I haven't looked into. I don't think we've started managing Active Directory with Salt yet, so I haven't been able to use those new modules.
Yeah, we don't really have an Active Directory story, like spinning up a forest, setting all the Active Directory up, and configuring your Active Directory structure and organizational units and all that stuff. We have nothing for Active Directory. If somebody was managing an IT department, it might be easy for them to set up some hooks. Say if they delete a user from a database, then it triggers a salt state that goes out and deletes that user from Active Directory and all the groups, a way to automate that kind of thing. Nobody's really asked me for it, and so I don't know what the interest is out there. That's why I bring it up. What about IIS? You guys do anything with IIS?
I have like a little bit. But yeah, I don't think I have anything to say about it right now, because I haven't. Basically, I'm going to try to start using it more, maybe in the near future, to sort of deploy our application, create the websites. I think it's done with like PowerShell right now. But I think what I've seen in the new IIS modules is they have been sort of converted into states, and I just haven't had time to test that.
We do have an IIS module. It kind of came from the community repo, and then we brought it over into the mainstream repo and added some things to it. But I'm still not sure that it does everything that everybody needs.
Right.
I don't know who's using it, and I don't know how much interest there is there. So that's why I bring it up here.
Yeah, it is something that I do plan on using.
Okay. What about Microsoft SQL Server?
Yeah, we use SQL Server.
Would there be interest in having some modules and states around SQL Server?
Definitely. Would those be configuring it and installing it and stuff? Or just...
Well, you can go as deep as you want on it, I guess. For this working group, we can get it to do what you needed it to do. Installing it would probably be more of the package module, right?
Yeah. I just know the SQL admins still sort of, I think, install everything by hand.
Yeah.
Because it's a complicated process or something. I'm not familiar with it.
Yes. But then once it's there, maybe you could use Salt to configure it. And so is that maybe something we could look at? I mean, there's not a lot of us, so whatever we attack here, we need to be able to do in 6 months.
Oh, okay.
There's 6 to 8 months, I'm guessing, is the timeline here. So
yeah, I guess I'm not really sure what the plan for this working group is. We're gonna create a project or something, and
yeah. So the plan for this is that we're going to pick a few things that we want to work on and have as a part of the Sodium release.
Okay.
We'll all kind of agree to take on some tasks to build out different portions of Salt, and then we'll meet every month and see how we're doing on it and how it's going, and maybe adjust course if we need to. That's kind of the thoughts behind it. What about Exchange Server?
No.
Nobody uses that. 365 Foundations Server.
What?
Microsoft Office 365.
Oh, 365. Nope.
Or SharePoint? Anybody use SharePoint? Okay.
Nope.
Yeah. What about, is there anything else? Any other things that Microsoft or Windows uses, that distributed file systems, anything that we think we need SALT to do on Windows?
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
There is something like the Windows event system. I'm not sure whether SALT is able to read and write into that. That would be useful.
Like the event logs?
Yep.
Okay, so are you suggesting instead of logging to a text file like SALT does now, that we would log into the application event log?
I think that's smart from my point of view.
Into the application event log.
Because there are then several Windows network utilities, you could then easier query that event log.
Would you have a need to be able to query event logs from other applications from within SALT?
Yep.
Okay. So not only write to a SALT application event log, but also be able to query the event logs of other apps, the security logs, the
Yep.
audit logs, all that stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
It's not an urgent need, but that's like an idea. I would say it's not for the next 6 months, but just to bring up an idea for the next year or something, or see how many people would be interested. The event logs suffer from very much stuff in it problem. So we would eventually need to decide whether we would build some logic into it, because just reading from it would be easy, but then it's also practically useless because it's very much garbage. So whether to write some experience from us or how to make it pluggable, maybe on that level we could find a way to slice through that terrible too much information inside the event log problem. Maybe we find something, maybe not.
Maybe pipe it to a third-party app or something that's already built.
Yep, maybe. And then digest it on the client and send only, or maybe we could even delete logs. We are a system, but this is just an idea. In our company, it's essentially not used. The event log is just a dead end. Nobody reads from the event log, which is a pity. But maybe SALT is not here to solve that stupid problem.
Okay. Okay. What about, so this maybe goes back to the installer. It's been on my radar to move where SALT gets installed. Having it on the root of C is a very Linuxy way to install things, right? So maybe defaulting to program files instead of having SALT on the root of C, and then moving some of the more commonly accessed stuff that changes, putting that in the program data directory, like the cache, I'm not sure where to put the config file, you know?
Yes.
We need to be able to lock it down. Do we keep that in program files? Do we put that in program data? You know?
Definitely not in program data, because it's very sensitive information, must not go into program data, but it could go into program. Yeah.
Program files.
Just program files would be the most logical route, and not C, but C program. Yeah.
The PKI directory as well should maybe go in there in the program file.
Why not? It's as good under program as under root. C /. I kind of get very used to C backslash now. I wouldn't see a need to move it. Personally, I think it's Linux. It's a Unix-centric way, but well, it's a better. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe it's not everybody can go. It's a little bit too prominent. So I would feel that putting everything under program file is just a little bit nicer to everybody else. But keeping it in one directory, also the cache as it is, I would not change too much. My feeling is that it works well right now. Maybe if somebody is disappointed by having it under C, we can offer just one other choice. You can choose any color as long as it's black. It goes into programs.
Okay. All right. The idea was that they would be able to install Salt wherever they wanted to. But instead of defaulting to C Salt, we would default to program files. Kind of like, you know, how you can choose an install location. That's kind of what we were looking at. But you don't seem to like that idea.
I don't really like that idea because we need to remember where we put it last time. So somebody wants to then I spent a lot of time thinking about that and ended with, I remember just do not change that. This would I would go back and read my notes on that if you want to discuss that once again. Oh, if you want to discuss that. Rigel, do you have an opinion about that?
About what exactly?
Oh, sorry. Installing it to any location you want, so it could go. The installer asks you.
You could ask for an install path.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mind. I don't really mind it being at C either, though.
Okay. Okay, so maybe it's not as big a deal as.
It's something I just sort of install and then forget about.
Yeah.
Well, I think the issue is that some of the banks and more security conscious organizations we work with don't like having things installed in the root of C. They want to see it in program files or something.
Fair enough. I would then say not leaving a choice and programs. That would be my gut feeling. But if it's not a sincere discussion.
So you're saying either program files or the root of C, and those are the only two options.
Yep.
Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, I mean, I would think that if they want to put it wherever they want, then just give them like the path parameter and let them do whatever.
Just
the MSI, of course, the MSI installer itself has no problem with it. But there is one issue which seems to describe what's the problem with the Salt having problems being installed anywhere. It's not an installer problem. I think we would face a lot of work making Salt really jumping onto the path parameter. The MSI, of course, is aware of it, and the nullsoft also. But I think we will face a lot of problems within the Salt code, which would not be worthwhile. We would spending weeks and weeks and weeks on having it anywhere, and why?
Right. So Salt defaults. It looks in C Salt, and so we would have to change the places in code where it's hard-coded for C Salt. Now,
is it hard-coded anywhere?
The default is C Salt. Yeah. If you don't pass a location with the dash C on the command line, it will default to C Salt on Windows, just like it defaults to etc Salt on Linux.
That's just a config file thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you can change it in the config file. Well, no, because it has to know where the config file is, right? So it looks for the config file in a default location. So my thought about that is the more Windowsy thing to do would be to put it in a registry entry, and Salt would look in the registry. Where's the config file? And then find it.
That's the way. that's an option.
So okay. So maybe we ought to look at doing that. I think that's something we could do. I think it'd take a couple weeks to get salt to work in any random location you decide to put it, you know.
Yeah, if you work via an indirect, if you have a specific location in registry, which sounds familiar to me, then this could describe where the heck somebody wanted salt to have being installed, but it would always be written into one particular place in the registry. That's possible, but I think it would require a lot of change. It's not I looked into that and I found it to be a severe problem.
It's not as simple as I'm thinking it is going to be.
I can send you the one issue, and there are more long time standing issues with that.
Okay. All right. So we have gone through your pain points. We've come up with a few ideas. We're coming to the end here. We're at an hour. So let's come up with maybe some action items that we want to try to hit. And if any of you guys would be interested in them. So one of them was a create service state, right?
Yeah.
That was one action item. Let's see. Migrate to Python 3. I see. And we wanted to do some work on the MSI. I'd like to have another meeting with you, Marcus, and just maybe talk about the MSI module and come up with maybe a plan that we'd like to go with that. So let's meet on that later.
Good.
My meeting later. Okay. You're in Germany, right? You're the one from Germany, so we need to work around your schedule.
I didn't get this was a question to me.
Yeah, you're the one that's in Germany. So I've got to work around.
Well, this time is fine. So for me, it's 6:30 p.m. So that's when we start, 5:30, whatever your time is now. That works for me.
Okay, I'll put me and Marcus on that one.
I'd like to jump into that one too. I'm actually really interested, especially in having some kind of nightly builds, this MSI installer.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay. So me, Marcus, and Joe, and whoever else wants. Everybody's invited, of course, but we will just be talking about MSI. So the verifying the defaults in the config, that's probably going to be a pretty short task.
Well, then, yeah, it would be that somewhere in the init file there would be a decision operating system that Windows, then this default or not. You say all these decisions are made in the init and it does not rely on the config file. That would be, if it's already done, perfect. I will just verify and then it's checked.
Okay. I'll put you down for doing that. You're going to delete those defaults out of the file to work.
Good.
Okay. So I guess this one is more along the lines of the installers being able to pick what is installed with the minion, creating installation modules. What are they called? Where you can like select PIP, select.
Yep.
So choose what's installed. Hey Joe, you like I'm getting a weird echo in my.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the echo is getting worse. That's true.
Choose what's installed when you install Salt. And some of the options there were PIP, Salt Cloud modules, and maybe maybe we need to look at getting rid of now. So I do have a script that I go through and I delete a bunch of modules that.
Yes, I know that. So I would like, these are the Unix, you already delete the Unix stuff, and along these lines one could make other parts optional, not deleting them, but putting them what's known in MSI, I think it's called a component, and have it an optional component.
Okay, optional components, that's the word I was looking for.
Mm.
Okay, and Windows event logs. So the ability to log salt. Now I think logging salt into the application log is going to be a difficult one. I think querying might be easier, and configuring some logging, configuring what gets logged maybe might be easier. It'd be along the lines of an execution module and a state module to configure logging on a machine. But having salt log into the application log might be a little more difficult.
Yeah, and I repeat, it's nothing urgent.
Okay.
It would be a nice thing though, but not urgent.
Do you know if an API exists for it in C++?
I would imagine there is a lot of
Yeah, absolutely. .NET, it's .NET, and maybe it's not in Win32 or in C++. You mean? Definitely.
Yeah, I can port it to Python if we need to do that. That's not a problem for me.
Okay.
Okay.
So we can pick out one in C++ that we like that's nice and easy, and we just write a little bit of C and we call it a day.
Good.
Okay. All right. So who would like to work on the creating a service state, a state that lets you create a Windows service? Anybody like to take that?
Well, I already have like a backbone for that. Maybe I could just, what should I do with it though? Like, do I make a pull request and then we can just review that?
Yeah, turn it into a state file, something you could call it a state, and docs, write some tests for it, and then submit it as a pull request.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just have to read the documentation on writing tests for your CI system.
Okay, and I'm happy to help you out with that. It would all be new because it's a new execution module, so there'd be something we'd have to write.
Yeah.
Actually, when you could you for both of us, Rigel and me, make like a introduction into the test system, because last time I did it was I wrote some tests and then I could not test them locally. This was like kind of, I felt a little bit stupid. I wrote a test and then I had to the Jenkins run it on the server, but I could not test it before Jenkins run on it, and I was very blind on doing any tests.
Okay, let's do that. We'll do a testing meeting.
Yep.
We'll cover setting up a test environment, running a single test instead of the entire test suite, and writing simple tests, and that would be unit tests and integration tests.
Mm-hmm. And you guys use Docker to test Windows stuff, right?
Not on Windows.
Not on Windows. You just test it locally on the whatever server or whatever computer you're on.
Have you ever set up Docker on Windows? I've never done it. I've heard it works.
I was just wondering how the tests get run.
So they want to move to Docker for some things. Right now, the test suite all runs on Amazon.
Okay.
We're using Kitchen Salt. We have a plugin for Kitchen, and it spins up VMs on Amazon. We have kind of a golden image that has some of the basic things like Python installed and some of the prereqs, and then we pip install the dependencies we need. We it copies up all of the source code files, and then it launches the test suite and returns the, what do they call them? The XML files. There's a word for them, and I can't remember what they're called. But anyway, the results of the test get returned back to Kitchen. So when you see Jenkins spin up, it's running the, that's what it's running.
Okay.
On all the PR tests, we have all the tests, a bunch of tests that run every time someone does a PR. We have daily branch builds, and then the branch builds also get triggered every time a PR is merged. So
Okay.
that's kind of what we got running. We don't have nightly builds yet. I guess that would be a branch build, and we can eventually get an additional trigger that once those complete, we can build MSIs and build our installers off of that. If people want to mess with the nightly builds. On Windows, we have the additional task of signing. I have to sign all of the builds that I do. And I don't know, Marcus, do the MSIs require you to sign them?
Not require, but if you have a developer key, that would be brilliant, because I already said, I alerted you that the Nullsoft exe is regarded as a virus by the virus scanner, by Symantec virus scanner. So it's better to sign them, because if it's signed, I don't think the exe is signed, is it?
I do sign it. We have a code signing certificate, an EV code signing certificate from Digit. We sign our code with.
Okay, then I don't know who I spoke with, but you had to whitelist it also. So the signing was not enough.
So what it is we use the NSSM. I don't know if you're familiar with the
of course, yeah.
Manager.
And yeah, you renamed it. You renamed it. Luckily.
Yeah, so I went and recompiled it and found everywhere where it said non-sucking and made it Salt Service Manager, and then recompiled it because it was getting tagged by VirusTotal.
Yeah.
The reason it does is because NSSM gets used by malware to keep their services running.
Yeah.
Malware people will use NSSM to keep their services running. So it kind of gets, it's not a virus, it gets tagged as potentially unwanted software. So it gets tagged.
That's, yes.
And do you see that with the MSIs you're building? Do they get tagged in the same way?
So it's the Symantec uses a reputation index, and the installer I have, which is now pretty old, has been seen in so many places that its reputation is very high, which is also in the same thing. This reputation doesn't make much sense, but this is a longer discussion of do virus scanners make sense. So I had not to whitelist my MSI, and you could sign it, of course. You can sign the MSI. And then hopefully do not whitelist it at the end. But you can sign the MSI, yes. But you do not need to. I did not sign the MSI at the time.
Okay. When we do start building MSIs alongside EXEs, I'll sign them. It's a key fob, so
Good.
I can't give you a key. But I got this thing right here.
Yeah.
To sign them, and so I guess we can fully automate it, right? It's just candle, light, and that'll build our MSI, and then we can sign them.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so we'll have who wants to start working on the migration to Python 3? Anybody? It's also an installer thing. It's kind of.
What is the migration to Python 3?
It would be, I think it'd basically be just moving Python 2 out of the installer, getting rid of our Python 2 installer scripts, and I think we want to migrate to Python 3.6. That's where all the Unicode fixes are.
Yeah.
Or 3.7 even.
Yeah, I think 3.6 would be the goal. Isn't that also where they introduced that ordered dictionary optimizations.
Oh, I think there's some other additional optimizations in 3.7 as well.
Yeah.
So I had when I tried it earlier is that a lot of the dependencies we bundle weren't supporting 3.6 at the time, but I think everybody's probably updated their stuff now.
Well, I think with how many sort of dicks are in Salt, that the optimizations there in 3.6 would make it a lot better.
Okay.
Like it uses a lot of dictionary
Okay.
objects. But I'm
Well,
not sure.
I'll start looking at that. I'll start looking at that migration. We're going to have an MSI planning meeting and a testing meeting. Who's going to come to that?
I'd like to come to the testing one.
Okay. Joe or Chad, you in?
Yep, I'll be there. Always willing to learn more about testing. So
Okay.
I'll be there.
All right, I put you down. Verify the defaults. Mark's going to do that. We're going to have a meeting. Well, I have the install optional components. That'll probably be a part of the MSI meeting maybe that we have.
Would be nice.
Yeah. Put that in there. And the event logs. Anybody want to take a shot at at the Windows event logs? You want to try that out, Joe? Or I mean, Chad? Joe, did
Yeah,
you?
I think I want to try the event log because I can just find an API in C++ and just port it on over, and then we don't have to fish out one.
Okay. And I'll talk to you about that later then. Because I don't want to be writing a bunch of C code. We'd like to keep it in Python as much as we can. Not make it too complicated so that it's easily maintainable.
I understand that probably not. We probably won't even have to allocate memory or anything. It's just literally including Python H and just literally plugging in the wires for us.
Okay. All right. So I got Rigel looking at the create service state. I'll look at migrating Python 3.6. We're going to have an MSI planning meeting and a testing meeting. Marcus is going to look verifying the config file default. And Chad's going to look at the Windows event logs. Were you going to say something, Marcus?
Isn't the migration to Python 3 ongoing also without us? I think the continuous integration is doing Python 2 and Python 3, both.
It is for now. But if we migrate to Python 3.6, we can drop to Python 2. And it's not just Python 3, it's Python 3.6.
Yeah.
So we're supporting Python 3 now, but it's 3.5.4, Python 3.5. So we need to look at 3.6 and possibly 3.7. And I think we're getting ready to release 3.8, aren't they? Anyways.
yeah, we should go as high up the food chain as possible with that, just to get all the optimizations. If you're going to do it once, you might as well do it pretty far up.
I have no particular opinion about that. If it works, it's fine for me.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. Let's look at our schedules here. When do you want to do the MSI meeting, and when do you want to do it the testing meeting? You want to look at next Tuesday, 25th, for one of those meetings? Let's do the testing one first.
Yep.
Next Tuesday, 25th at same time.
Second, please.
Okay.
A second.
How are you, Rigel, with that date?
Yeah, I think this time works.
Okay. Testing. Okay, I'll have Kavya set that up. Did you hear that, Kavya?
Yeah, I got that, Shane. And one of the questions I had was, do we want to open this to the community? I mean, apart from the working group, because the testing, I mean, that is an interesting topic we hear often, right?
Sure. Yeah. We're happy to open it up.
Okay.
Maybe get people in there that know more about it than me. I'm just going to show them how to get started on, this is all going to be Windows specific. So we're going to set up a test environment in Windows, run some tests, and go through pulling in basically kind of a boilerplate for getting started on writing a Windows test.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the plan.
Unfortunately, next week, Tuesday would be the 25th. I'm already busy.
Okay.
I mean, would it help if, because all of these meetings are recorded and ultimately they'll be uploaded on YouTube?
Oh, to have it just recorded?
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot this is being recorded. Now I'm all nervous.
Well, I would prefer to be able to bother you all with my questions. But
what about Wednesday, the 26th? Are you busy then?
Perfect.
That works?
No, I'm not.
Okay. I could do Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday next week at this time.
Wednesday?
Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Did one of those days work for you, Marcus?
Wednesday.
Well, Wednesday does work for you.
Wednesday.
Okay. Is that good for you, Rigel?
Wednesday, next week or something?
26. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that should be fine.
Okay. So let's schedule the testing meeting for an hour and a half on Wednesday the 26th.
Perfect.
Yeah. And then do you want to go the following week for the other one, for the NSI meeting?
Yep. Then I would be free also on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay, if we were done, it'd have to be done by 11 if we're going to do that. I have a meeting at 11 on Tuesday. Would it take more than an hour?
I think it's not only one meeting, to be honest. So we could chunk it into 1 hour, but it's not finished then.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and do it. We'll meet at 9:30 again on Tuesday, the 2nd of July.
Okay.
This would be to talk about MSI stuff and WIC.
Yep.
Can you schedule that?
Does it also sound weird in English? I hope that in German it sounds terrible, Wix. Does it also have a strange sound in English, in American English?
No. Does it have is that a German word?
Yeah, it's kind of, we would not talk about this in public. So you would not do it in public, for example.
Okay. Would you prefer we say WIX?
I call it the MSI installer, and then I'm happy with it.
All right, let's have an MSI installer meeting on the 2nd of July at 9:30. Did you get that one, Kavya?
Yeah, I got that one.
Okay.
And I had one more quick question since we are at the top of the hour. So I think we had this meeting for about an hour and 30 minutes. Do you think we need to extend the meeting hours going forward, or is this because we started a little late this time?
We started late. We had introductions. We taught. I don't think our future meetings need to be this long.
Okay. Yeah, just making sure. And I did hear some of the action items being voluntarily picked up. So we had a couple of attendees who were missing in today's meeting, right? And especially Rare's Pop, he's been pretty interested in working group meetings. So would we want him to take up anything? I mean, that's for the group to decide. I'm even suspecting folks probably didn't. I mean, he didn't show up maybe because the Google Calendar was down, and that might be a reason. So.
Well, we can talk to him. We'll talk to the other two guys, and they might have some interest in some of these other things.
Okay.
I'll kind of refresh what we went over this meeting with them. And if they have any other ideas and want to add something they want to work on, I think we could add those next meeting.
Okay. I think that'll be perfect.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I had. Did anybody else have anything for this meeting? Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for your time and for being a part of this. And I'm excited to work with you. And I think we've got some good things planned, and go do it. Talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
All right, thanks for hosting. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.